Hello everyone, it's Fairykin. Today, myself and a wonderful group of artists are bringing you a collab. But not just any collab, no. It's a very late, secret, My Creepy Valentines collab. The theme is, as I understand it, creepy, cute Valentines. Love with a little bit of spice. Stick through to the end to hear all about the other artists that are joining me. Now, there are several routes that I wanted to go with this concept. The idea of creepy Valentines made me think about the line, "Cut your red flags into Valentines," which I thought was a lyric from a Taylor Swift song. I don't know why, but then I did a ton of research into the line, and it turns out that it's a line from a poem by Andrea Gibson, which I should have known because they're my favorite poet. But anyway, that's bunk. My whole concept fell apart. I had this dramatic story about someone who got broken up with on Valentine's Day, and the doll would be like a manifestation of their grief and resentment, kind of voodoo doll style, but never mind, the research doesn't support the idea. I moved to the next obvious creepy thing full of love that I could think of. Ninjas. Obviously. Think about the mystery of love and how sometimes it just comes by and relentlessly and ungovernably stabs you in the heart with all of the force of rock and roll, rage, and murder. Are you thinking about it? Good. If it sounds familiar, you could be thinking about one of my very favorite cover and comedy bands, Ninja Sex Party. Sometimes also called NSP. Ever since I made the Danny Sexbang doll, I've been planning of making a Ninja Brian, and now's the time. For some reason, I've always wanted to make a Ninja Brian for Valentine's Day too. I don't know why, it just seems right, but now's the time. So, there's a couple of iterations of the character Ninja Brian from all of their music videos, and there's a couple iterations that really inspire me, like the entire Mystic Crystal music video is crazy inspiring to me. I love it. But there's, animated versions, gay versions, and regular. Anyway, I'm kind of choosing my own style, kind of stylizing it in my own way, a little more edgy, and maybe a little bit younger. Okay, I'll shut up and get rolling. I started with a few complications. Brian Wecht, who is the Ninja Brian actor, keyboard player, and producer for some of NSP's songs, has a very, 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 very distinct facial structure. Also, he's a very, very skilled individual, and I admire him greatly. Anyway, there are no dolls that look like this man, nor do I have very many male dolls in general, so I'm going to hybrid it up in here. The body I'm using is from a slow-mo, and the head is from Jackson Jekyll. The hands, we'll meet later about that. The Jackson that I had a giant hole in his head, so I patched it up with a bit of cotton fabric and E6000 glue. This glue is my favorite for vinyl rubber because it hardens to the exact texture of the vinyl rubber. It's great. This guy has an eyebrow piercing, so I'll figure out what to do with that later. I'm starting with the face up. I'm going to do my best to contour the face to look like Brian's. Start with a coat of MSC spray sealant. This protects the surface from staining and gives it tooth for my medium to stick to. For the blushing and contour, I use Mungyo soft pastels and a fluffy brush. I try to focus on using colors that fit in Brian's skin tones, taking into account his undertones and overtones, placing shadows and highlights where they need to be to accentuate certain shapes of the face. I did get a little too aggressive and dark with those contours, so this seems weird, but I did a layer of pan pastels over what I already did that's in his skin tone to tone things down a little bit. It seems counterintuitive, but when I hit it with a layer of MSC, the MSC blends things out and adds some transparency to that layer. I continue pushing darks and lights until it looks right. Also adding in a little 5 o'clock shadow for when I add the beardy beard later. When I feel happy at where this is, I start in with my watercolor pencils. I prefer Prismacolor for this. Mapping out the face, marking in the eyes and eyebrows. you gotta add the piercing blue eyes. When I decide that I like the shape of the eyes and the direction that it's taking, I commit to it using darker tones and adding more depth. Anyway, using grays, browns, blacks, and creams, I add in hairs for the beardy beard thing that Brian's got going on. In between layers of MSC, whenever I notice the colors aren't building anymore, I add a new layer, kind of like adding another layer in digital art, if that makes sense. I usually get to the point where I just can't get the vibrancy or opacity that I want out of the pencils, so I wet the back of the pencils and use that like normal paint with a brush. I do this a little bit extra with lighter colors. I like this method because I can still blend colors and erase the same, but it's just like a little extra oomph. My style is a little bit anime, a little realism, a little bit I don't know. Lots of people have a distinct style, but I feel like I don't really have that, and that's fine, it's just interesting. Honestly, eyebrows are my very favorite thing to add. I love making that hair texture, and I would like to personally thank Ninja Brian, Sir Mr. Dr. Ninja Brian, for having giant eyebrows, because I like doing eyebrows. So thanks. From here, it's really just detail-oriented nonsense, adding a ton of highlights and lowlights. I choose to add wrinkles. I tried my best to make him look frowny. But I also want some confidence in his eyes, and that's more of a feeling, and so it's kind of hard to objectively represent confidence in a face, but I did my best. I also chose to just commit to the eyebrow piercing. I bent a wire to the right shape, and then I jammed it in there. No biggie. Then, with some UV resin, I add some glossy, shiny life into his eyes, and a little bit in his lips, too. I cure this outside with the sun or with a UV lamp for at least 30 seconds. Time to move on to the hair, because the face is done. You guys, this is not my best work. I'm gonna warn you ahead of time. I start with yarn, comb it out, straighten it, cut it to size, and glue it to parchment. I let it dry, peel it off, trim it, and then glue those little pieces to his head and forget all your troubles and worries. Did I leave the oven on? I really thought I did a great job on this one until I started cutting, and it's so bad. He's balding just a little bit. I should have just made a wig. I don't know why I didn't. It just didn't work out as much as I wanted it to. Moving on to the clothes, I don't want to dwell on this too much. I make pattern pieces by outlining the doll's body and then adding to it. At this point, I just have a really good feel for what's going to work. It takes a bit of practice, but I still always struggle with sleeves. For the material, I'm using black denim because I wanted some texture, not this costumey junk. Costumey flat black. Shout out to Thighs for giving me access to these pair of jeans. I got these from Goodwill, and I figured nobody would buy them, so I grabbed them. I like to iron and process my pieces of fabric just before I cut. It just makes it a little bit easier. I tried to use the wash texture to my advantage from the like hems. When cutting the pieces, you'll see it a bit better later. I cut out all the parts and put them together. I start with the shoulders and move to sleeves, and then I sew down the sides of the sleeves in one go. My production assistants are always happy to supervise. See how the textures work on the chest and shoulders? I like it a lot. I wish it was a little bit more subtle, but that's okay. For the pants, I attach the crotch together first, and then I flip it and sew down the pant legs all the way down the side on both sides. Once both pieces are done, I flip them right side out. And with miniature sleeves and pant legs, it's like the worst process ever. I stick a pencil or something in it to like force it out, but then sometimes that makes it worse. And I have to pick it out with my little fingies. It takes an unreasonable amount of time. And my production assistant just sits there and watches me struggle. I then iron it. I do own an actual iron, but I just really prefer using a flat iron that's meant for hair. It saves a lot of time and space, I think. I then attach the shirt and pants to create the most epic onesie anyone has ever experienced. Sick, it fits. Now I have to figure out the cowl hood thing. What's that called? A balaclava? Yeah, I think so. I don't know. Being a costume designer, you'd think I'd know this shit. I created a hood, and then I made 2 ruched fabric pieces, one to lay over his bottom face, and the other to lay over the top of the face. Get the picture? I gotta finish the edge of the hood though, because it looks gross. I sewed the strips to the inside, and in the future I would definitely use snaps for this because sliding it over his head and his ugly hair was a struggle, but it did work out eventually. Thankfully, this means that you can't see the hair at all. Win-win. After trying it on, I plan out tacking down the parts that are kind of loose and trimming things up just to make it shaped a bit nice. A bit nicer. I use the Jim Henson stitch in the back to close it up and attach the hood to the rest of the suit. He's now stuck in his costume hell permanently forever, but like I'm not going to take it off, so I'm not worried. Now to accessorize, I used some leather strap stuff to add wraps to the clothes. I chose to just glue them on because I wouldn't be able to sew it on after I, sewed him into the suit permanently. I recommend accessorizing before you put it on the doll. My planning never makes sense. I pin it on so that the glue will dry in the right spots, and I added these details to the sleeves as well. Using acrylic paint, I add some red stripe details to the suit. I thought that this added a little sporty dynamic to the suit. I wanted to stud the sleeves, but I couldn't find my studs and I didn't have time to make any, so I just did little dots of UV resin and painted them silver later. And I should have done this before I added the straps. What is wrong with me? I paint in the dragon symbol on his chest, avoiding the straps that I already added. I chose the most recent version of the dragon symbol thingy. And now for shoes. I didn't have any shoes that were ninja-esque, but I did have these. I was going to sculpt them up to build them into boots, but I really ran out of time. Maybe I'll do that in the future, along with adding real studs to the jacket. I had to peel the gold sparklies off of these. I made these for my drag queen doll, but then I didn't end up using them. Whatever I use to paint these does not come off, which is good in theory, but a pain in my ass in practice. I just paint them black. Just paint them black and forget about it. Okay, so cool little fun story. In the middle of this process, my cats, excuse me, my production assistants, knocked down the bag that I was using to keep all this project together and ripped open the bag just enough so that one of his hands went missing. I guess that's the only thing that I can attribute to the missing hand. I took apart the whole area that the bag fell into and I never found it. So I chose to steal Gil Weber's hands, cut the webs out of his fingers with an X-Acto knife, and then I used those. The problem with these hands is that I didn't know until it was too late was that these are not compatible with the doll. They're the wrong generation or something. The pegs just don't fit. So I chose to glue them, and this worked fine for my purposes for now. Eventually, when I find the damn hand, I'm going to put it on the doll. I'm going to paint it black, and I'm going to put it on the doll. Oh my god. Ninja Brian needs to have weapons. He needs to have something to support his violence. I planned on making him a sword to wield. The problem is that the one that I made is one, not a ninja sword. A katana. It's not a katana. And then also, it's just ugly. Then, when their brand new album, These Nuts, came out, I saw this poster on their merch site and got really inspired by this, so I decided to make him a little piano to wield. Maybe he'll hit you with it. Maybe he'll play you some sweet jams. You never know. You never know. Following this tutorial, I followed this tutorial to make it out of a spaghetti box, and then I painted it. And then I attached a strap with a little bit of Velcro on so that it fits on his back. And with that, our sneaky lover is all done. I do have a few notes on things I want to finish on him later, like the shoes and the jacket and just a few other little details, and then I'll photograph that and probably put it on my Instagram. Speaking of my Instagram, I have one. You can go look at it if you want. But for now, I'm quite pleased with him. I think he fits really well with the Danny that I made, and I'm really proud of how timely I finished it. And I love how he fits in with the lineup with all of my co-artists. My cohorts are Diamondza Craft, who made Orin from Baldur's Gate 3, Lemon Kitten Creations, who is making a Leshen / like Leshy girl, Nerdy Cap, who is making Pedro and Inez, StitchWyck Creations, who's making an Orchid Mantis, which is so cool, Unbridled Artistry, who's making Hades / like Hydra's creepy love child, Telley Dolls, who's making Koppel is Dracula, like a feminine version of that. StephoDoll, who's making a lovesick yandere vampire girl, fantastic. LadyDynamitecreates, who's making a crazy fangirl, love it. Insaneleecreating, who's making a sad voodoo doll, which I love that, comes full circle. And then our wonderful host is StarlightDreamDolls. Such an honor to work with all of these really, really skilled creators. It's wonderful to get to know new creators, or at least, creators that are new to me. Hear about new skill sets and new perspectives on my craft, and it's just so wonderful. I appreciate all of you so much. Thank you all so, so much for watching. All of the pages to the artists that I worked with will be linked in the description and in the cards. Shout out to all my channel members. Without your ongoing support, I don't think I could do this. Thank you so much for gifting me with your time. Take good care of yourselves. There's only one of you. Thank you so much. Bye.